Okay, so here we are again. Today I'm going to look at finishing off the aft tanks and finishing off the inside backing supports for the lifting bolts. Now I had originally put in these 6-inch U-bolts for lifting, but having seen a video recently of someone having their dinghy lifted out in one of the Pacific Islands in, I think it was Fiji, I'm not 100% sure. The guy started lifting the dinghy out while the skipper was still inside, standing inside, so that's a lot of extra weight to put on something as small as a 6mm U-bolt. So I decided to upgrade to an 8mm U-bolt, which gives you effectively, twice the strength, I think, because the diameter, the area, the cross-sectional area of each of these threads is almost double, because it's radius squared. So if that is 3, that squared is 9. If that is 4, radius 4mm, that's 16. So I'm going from a cross-sectional area of 9 somethings to 16 times pi, whatever it is, in radius squared. So pi r squared, yeah, so r squared, radius 3, radius 4. So dividing by pi, because it's the same, I'm going to get 3 squared compared to 4 squared, so 9 compared to 16. So 9 to 16, that's an extra 7, So it's almost double. It's almost double the cross-sectional area, so almost double the strength, in my view, just for one size increase. And when you look at them side by side, you can see that one's bigger, but it doesn't look hugely bigger. It doesn't look twice as strong, but I think it almost is twice as strong. So, so one of my plans is to drill out the hole slightly bigger, and I'm going to reinforce those backing pads with glass tape. I am then going to mark out some holes in the side panels for the aft tanks, so that I can put these access panels in. There's going to be just about enough room, so they're going to go there like that, one on each side. So it's not just for access and inspection, it's also potentially for some storage. I know they're flotation tanks, but let's say we go off for a walk somewhere and we've got life vests. You could theoretically stuff a life vest inside there and just keep it safe, so we don't have to carry it around. And then I'm going to get these aft panels tack welded into position in the hull. So I've measured that out as about 4.5 hours work. So let's see how long it actually does take. So I better crack on. Okay, so I've done the first bit, which is to take the U-bolts out, drill the holes slightly bigger so that the new ones fit, and very luckily the centre line of the new U-bolt is very close to the centre line of the old one, so it means I don't have to drill a separate hole for the second leg of the bolt. Just drilling out the existing holes slightly bigger with an 8mm bit was sufficient to get them in. And now I've just mixed up some epoxy, and I've put a fillet between that backing plate and the sides, so that I can then put a layer of glass tape over it to give it some proper strength. So not quite sure if you can see this with the light I've got in here, but that's kind of what it looks like now. So you can see the fillet goes from one side all the way to the bottom and then all the way up to the other side, and you can see the holes where the U-bolts are going to protrude, so that means the load from the lifting straps will be distributed into the whole of that bottom section of the hull, and into the forward bulkhead, and into the sides via the bulkhead at the top. So the whole boat will be lifted effectively from the floor rather than from the position where the lifting eyes are, which is like halfway up the hull. And then looking from the stern forwards, these are the 2 holes for the U-bolt, and the two holes for the U-bolt on that side, and then that load is going to be distributed throughout that hole, the V going down from those lifting eyes. I've got a bit of sanding to do here where some drips came through when I was doing the bulkheads. Okay, so that's that for now. So I'm going to leave that to go off before I put the tape on later. So in the meantime, I'm going to get on with some cutting. I'm going to cut the holes for the hatches in the side panels, and possibly cut the new slightly thicker, slightly wider mast collar for the new laser mast. All right, on we go. So here I am now measuring up the ports. Need to get them kind of, I decided to put them pretty much in the centre of the panels, so I could get easy access to both sides rather than to one side. Having the port in the middle, yeah, it means I can get access to both ends of the tank. So cutting these is quite tricky. Had to cut a couple of holes with the drill so I could get the jigsaw blade in and then cut round, and of course make sure that the holes are the right size. So quick catch up on what I've just been doing. Because I'm going to be using this laser mast and rigging, then the mast is 2.5 inches in diameter rather than 2 1/4 as designed. So after checking with B&B Yacht Designs that would be okay, they've said that it will be okay, but you will need to increase the size of the mast collar to make up for any lost material, because if I'm going to drill a 2 1/2 inch hole instead of a 2 1/4 inch hole in here, I'm going to lose 1/8 of an inch around that collar that's supporting the mast. And so, as you can see here, I mean, these look very, very similar, but that's because this new piece now is only 1/8 of an inch, it's about 1/8 of an inch bigger all round. So it's slightly longer, and then it's the same size at the nose, but as it's come back, it just gets slightly thicker and thicker until it's then, and then it's about 1/8 of an inch bigger all the way around. So once I come to drill that hole, there will be enough material left around the edge to provide enough support for that slightly bigger mast. Now, that also means that because the mast is slightly bigger diameter, I've got to move it forward ever so slightly, because there needs to be a 12mm gap between the bulkhead and the mast. Initially, this was the piece of foredeck that I cut and shaped, and that goes pretty well with the mast collar. So that goes underneath there. So that piece goes into the bow with the mast collar underneath to support it, and then just that flat piece of deck on top. And the aft edge of the mast collar and the aft edge of the foredeck piece match up quite nicely. So if I'm going to use this new piece of mast collar with this piece of deck, because it's now bigger all the way around, what happens is that's actually now going to protrude by, it's going to protrude by 1/4 of an inch, so that's 2 1/8, because I moved it forward 1/8 and also made it 1/8 bigger, so that's 1/4 of an inch now that it's bigger. So that would have looked a bit unprofessional and a bit messy. So thankfully I did have a piece of 1/4 inch ply big enough, and so I've cut a new foredeck out just based on the old shape, but just with slightly more length on that piece. So that now, I mean, it's, yeah, there's about 1 mil over there, but that's going to get sanded down once it's all glued in place. So yeah, so I'm kind of pleased with that. I'm not sure where the hole's going to go exactly. There's going to be a bit of dry fitting going on when that comes to go in there before I drill the hole, and then I'll drill the hole based on where it looks against the foredeck once it's all in place. But I now have 2 new pieces to go on the foredeck to support the mast, so that's good. So they've now fit the slightly larger hole, so that's great. So what I'm doing here now is building up the centreboard case. So I've got the 2 side panels cut to the right shape from the original 1/4 inch ply, but now I need to get 2 posts and cut those to the right length and make sure they've got the right angle, and also that they're the right way around, so that there's the right gap between the two side panels so that the centreboard will go down the middle. So I'm cutting the post there. So apologies that my back's towards the camera, but I was a bit pushed for time, and I'm cracking on with the boat rather than thinking about the videos really. Okay, so time is flying on, and I've got my seat panels made now. I've got the holes cut in for the inspection hatches, which fit quite nicely. I've pre-drilled the holes for the screws, and I've created these backing pads, as it were, so these will sit behind. I'll glue those behind here, and when I then put the screws in, it's got a double thickness to get the screws into, so that should hold it a bit more safely, rather than having the screws protrude on the inside, which would just be a bit messy and probably prone to leaking. So I've got two of those and two panels with holes cut. But before moving on to the gluing, I wanted to have a look at the daggerboard case, and so I've cut the supports. What are they called? They're called the posts. Yeah, I've cut the posts to fit, and I've dry fit this together, so I've screwed it in. There's a aft post there and a fore post, and they're both at the same angle. And then there's another post going to go in the back and across the top here to support that. But given that that back post needs to go against the bulkhead and be screwed into it, I thought I'd better get this to the right shape. So I've been surf forming it and trying to get it to the right shape to fit the kind of shape of the hull, because it's sitting on a slight slope. It's not dead on the centre line because of the keel. It needs to sit to one side, so the port side is slightly shorter than the starboard side. So I'm shaving a little bit off there, and I'm putting a very slight 5-degree angle on as well. And of course the hull isn't flat on the bottom either. It's got a slight curve to it, so it curves from fore to aft. So again, I'm curving from fore to aft, but maybe slightly naively I put the posts in first, so I'm effectively having to shave down the posts now. Perhaps I should have made well, I guess I couldn't have really got the shape beforehand, because I didn't know how far apart these were going to sit. So this is proving to be quite a long-winded job, so I may not get around to getting these posts glued on tonight, but we'll see how it goes. But anyway, that's going to be like that, and then this is going to be the centreboard. So the centreboard needs to be able to go inside the daggerboard trunk. So there we go, and it should fall to about there. And the daggerboard itself will have some cleats on the top, so it can't fall any further. So I'm quite pleased with that.